So, okay. Through this session that we can, all right, that we can discuss about the demand and supply calculations. So as for the explanations with relate to the microeconomics and the macroeconomics, that we should have to do some sort of calculations also, right? Not only the demand and supply, but also that cost theory. And after demand and supply, actually elasticity. So under elasticity, that we have to concern about the cross elasticity, price elasticity, and income elasticity. Then the cost theory. So cost theory also maybe sometimes can give the table to fill up the empty spaces with relate to total. If we give the total cost, that you should have to calculate maybe sometimes average cost, marginal cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost, and average cost, marginal cost. So likewise, different type of calculations, right? We have to do different type of calculations and with related to market structures also. Because market structures, maybe sometimes they will we can ask the price, equilibrium quantity, all these things. Then macroeconomics, under macroeconomics also, national income already have some sort of calculations. So therefore, from this session that I would like to explain about some calculations, right? About some calculations, because we already have some theoretical understanding with related to demand and supply, all these micro and macro topics. So now that have to concern, because when we are doing the sessions, we don't have much time separately do some exercises. So then here that better to have some sort of calculations. Then that we already discussed some activity, right? Already discussed within the classroom with relate to these theoretical things that when we consider about the demand and supply, right? When we consider about the demand and supply, that we already have idea about what does mean by the demand and what does mean by the supply, right? So the demand is actually the willingness. So willingness and ability of the consumers, right? The demanders are the buyers, are consumers. We are the one already demanding for goods and services. So then demanders or the buyers, we can identify as the demanders for the goods and services, and the suppliers or the organizations or the business sector identified as the suppliers, right? So then when we consider demand and supply, that first we should have some sort of idea about what it means by the demand, right? So that demand is actually the when we consider about the demand, that means to be effective demand, right? So basically, to be effective demand, there should be compulsory that we have to satisfy these two conditions, as there should be willingness, right, to purchase that particular good. The consumer should have some sort of willingness as well as ability to purchase, right? Purchasing power, ability to purchase, right? That we can identify as the effective demand. So likewise for the effective supply also. For the effective supply also necessarily there should be two things that we have to meet, right? To be effective supply also, there should be the willingness, right? Supply willingness, කැමැත්ත. Supply කරන්න කැමැත්ත තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ වගේම willingness plus ability to supply. හරි. නිෂ්පාදනය කිරීමේ හැකියාව, ability to supply. order that to produce commodity or a product that we need 4 factors of production as land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. තොට සාධක මිලදී ගැනීමේ හැකියාව, ability to produce. Right? තොට මේ මිලදී ගැනීමේ හැකියාව සහ කැමැත්ත. හැකියාව සහ කැමැත්ත කියන එක තියෙන්න ඕන ඵලදායි. සඵලදායි සැපයීමක් වෙන්නේ වගේම සඵලදායි ඉල්ලුමක් වෙන්න. සඵලදායි ඉල්ලුමක් වෙන්න කැමැත්ත සහ මිලදී ගැනීමේ හැකියාව කියන දෙක තියෙන්න ඕන. So then when we consider about then if we consider about the under activity 1, so I already asked some questions, right? So it relate to the each and every sessions that I will discuss some questions as well as the on the revision part discuss some especially consider for the calculations, right? So then what are the demand determinants? So we know that when we consider about the demand determinants that we can identify the price of the considerable commodity. Price of other goods like substitutes and complementary. ආදේශක සහ අනුපූරක භාණ්ඩවල මිල ගණන් එහෙම නැත්නම් සම්බන්ධිත භාණ්ඩවල මිල ගණන්. Income of the consumer, expectation about future, අනාගත අපේක්ෂාවන්, ආදායම, number of buyers in the market, taste, government influence, other factors, all these things that we consider as the demand determinants. Right. සලකාලමුණ භාණ්ඩය මිල, සම්බන්ධිත භාණ්ඩවල මිල, ආදායම, අනාගත අපේක්ෂාවන්, වෙනද පොළ සිටින ගැනුම්කරුවන් සංඛ්‍යාව, රුචිකත්වය, ගුණත්වය, මෝස්තර එවක්කොම රජයේ බලපෑම්. එතකොට සහ අනිකුත් සාධක. මේවා තමයි අපි කතා කරේ ඉල්ලුම තීරණය කරන බලපාන සාධක විදියට. So that even though that we identify those all the factors as really important for the determination of the demand. So out of all these factors that we really concern about the price of the considerable good as usual, because when we want to purchase the commodity that definitely that we are considering about the first we consider about the price of the commodity. So මේ ඔක්කොම සාධක බලපානවා තමයි. මේ සේරම සාධක බලපානවා. ඒ වුණාට මේ සාධක අතුරින් වඩාත්ම වැදගත්ම සාධකය වෙන්නේ සලකා බලනු ලබන භාණ්ඩයේ මිල. එතකොට the price of the commodity. The price of the commodity. So that under the law of demand. ඉල්ලුම් න්‍යායෙන් එතකොට බලන්නේ මොකද්ද? When other things held constant. When other things held constant. අනිකුත් සාධක held constant. අනිකුත් සාධක ස්ථාවර පවතිද්දී. හරි? But අවන් if you are refer textbooks that you can find out new terms as ceteris paribus. ඔන්න මේකම තියෙනවා අපි කියන ceteris paribus කියලා. මේක ලතින් වර්ඩ් එකක්. ceteris paribus. ceteris paribus කියන්නේ අනිකුත් සාධක ස්ථාවරව තිබියදී කියන එක. When other things held constant, when we consider about the relationship between price and quantity. Price and quantity that we can identify inverse relationship. Inverse relationship or the negative relationship. Negative relationship between price and the quantity. Right? So that law of demand examines what the law of demand explain or the examine. The law of demand examines the relationship between price. The relationship between price and the quantity of a commodity when other things held constant. When other things held constant, that is the law of demand. Right? That is the law of demand. So what the law of demand explain? The law of demand examines the relationship between price and the quantity when other things held constant. අනිකුත් සාධක ස්ථාවරව තිබියදී භාණ්ඩයේ මිල සහ ප්‍රමාණය අතර පවතින සම්බන්ධතාවය තමයි අපි ඉල්ලුම් න්‍යායයෙන් අවධාරණය කරන්නේ. එතකොට so that law of demand explained as an inverse relationship. Either as an inverse relationship or a negative relationship. Or a negative relationship between price and the quantity. So when price increase, what will happen? The quantity will decrease, right? When price decrease, what will happen? The quantity will increase. This is the inverse. Pratiloma. Right? Inverse කියලා කියන්නේ ප්‍රතිලෝම සම්බන්ධතාවය. මිල ඉහළ යනකොට ඉල්ලුම පහළ යනවා. ඒ වගේම මිල පහළ යනකොට ඉල්ලුම ඉහළ යනවා. So that is the relationship between the price and the quantity. මිල සහ ඉල්ලුම අතර ඉල්ලුම් ප්‍රමාණය අතර තියෙන සම්බන්ධතාවය තමයි law of demand. ඉල්ලුම් න්‍යායයේ විස්තර කරා. හරි. එතකොට මේ ඉල්ලුම් න්‍යාය, right? So that the law of demand that we can explain by using three ways. So one is the graph, graphically. Graphically, then the algebraically. Graphically, algebraically, and numerically. Numerically, right? So that means සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව. Numerically කියලා කියන්නේ සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව. So by using a table, right, that we can identify price and the quantity. So when price increase, what will happen? 10 to 20, 30, likewise. When price increase 40, so at 10 that we are demanding 100. 20, what will happen? The reduce up to 80, 60, 40. So when price increase, what happen? Quantity will decrease. And graphically, we can show that by using graph. By using graph, this is price, this is quantity. So that is inverse relationship, negative relationship. That when we consider the slope, slope of the curve, slope කියලා කියන්නේ බෑවුම. Slope is negative. මේ විදිහට පහළට බෑවුම වෙනවා. මේ සිර දකුණට පහළට බෑවුම වෙන ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය. ස්ලෝප් එක පොසිටිව් කියලා කියන්නේ සප්ලයි කර්ව් එකේ තියෙන මෙහෙම. both increasing. price එකත් increase වෙනවා, quantity එකත් increase වෙනවා. This is supply curve. Right? But when we consider about the demand curve already has negative slope. That the demand curve lies from left to right. Left to right showing negative slope. Right? Showing negative slope. That I already explained why. So why that's so I will after this one I will explain algebraically. So algebraically we know that equation by using equation QD is equals to A minus BP. Right? QD is A minus BP. So this negative sign indicates the inverse relationship between price and the quantity. Price and the quantity. I think in the classroom that we already did some calculations how to calculate this A, then the B, then by substituting the values for A and B that we already found the demand equation. So by using that demand equation, we already calculate the even the graph also, demand graph and demand table, right? Both we already did. So and Then if I ask from your question, why this demand curve already has negative slope, right? Already had negative slope because of two reasons, right? I think that you maybe remember, right? You maybe remember those two reasons. The first one is substitution effect, right? Substitution effect. आदेशन अनुपातिके substitution effect and the income effect, right? Income effect, substitution effect and income effect, right? Income effect. So that substitution effect, आदेशन अनुपातिके सह आदायम अनुपातिके, आदेशन अनुपातिके सह आदायम अनुपातिके නිසා තමයි මේ විදිහට වමේ ඉඳලා දකුණට පහළට ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය බෑවුම් වෙන්නේ. හරි. So what does mean by this substitution effect? When we consider about the one side, for the simplicity, we'll consider only one side for this example. Example එකට එක පැත්තක් විතරක් අරන් කතා කරොත් එහෙම මිල වැඩි වෙනකොට. So what will happen when the price increase? When price increase, why quantity decrease? Right? Why when price increase, why quantity decrease? Say for example, the tea, price of tea. When price of tea increase, those who are consuming tea will shift to substitute market, maybe coffee market. Maybe coffee market. So those are consuming the tea because of this price increase that they will searching for some substitutes. Then they will shift to the coffee market. So that will lead for decrease of the quantity for tea. So tea කියන තේවල මිල වැඩි වුණොත් තේවල මිල වැඩි වීම නිසා තේ පාරිභෝජනය කරමින් හිටපු පාරිභෝගිකයෝ ඒකට ආදේශකයක් වන කෝපි පාරිභෝජනයට පෙරලන ඒක නිසා තේවල ඉල්ලුම පහළ යනවා. එකක් තමයි එතකොට substitution effect එක. කොට පාරිභෝගිකයන් the consumers will shift to substitutes, right? When the price increase of considerable commodity, the consumers will shift to substitutes. Therefore, the demand will reduce. That is the substitution effect. So when we consider about the income effect actually due to increase of price. Due to increase of price, the consumer cannot purchase the earlier quantity. Right, earlier quantity. That just say for example, if we have 1,000 rupees, earlier we already purchased 2 milk packets for 450 each. එකක් 450 ගානේ 1000ක් ආදායම තිබුණා නම් දෙකක් ගත්තා. But due to price increase up to 1,000, what will happen now that we can purchase only one, right? Only one. So that due to increase of price, the consumer purchasing power, මිලදී ගැනීමේ හැකියාව කියන එක. The consumer purchasing power will reduce. That we can identify as the income effect. So then due to, right? So due to income effect, I think, right? So the due to income effect and all right, due to income effect and the income effect and the substitution effect, right? Income effect and the substitution effect, the demand curve which lies, the demand curve will lies from left to right, showing negative slope, right? ඍණාත්මක බෑවුමක් සහිතව ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය වමේ සිට දකුණට පහතට බෑවුම් වන්නේ මන්ද කියලා අහුවොත් එහෙම. right? මන්ද කියලා ඇහුවොත් දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියන්න නම් එපා මිල වැඩි වෙනකොට ප්‍රමාණය අඩු වෙන නිසා. Right? So that I'm asking why is that? Right? So when price increase, the quantity decrease, why? Why there's a negative relationship? Right? So why showing negative slope? That demand curve lies from left to right. Why is that? So that definitely you have to answer because of this income effect and the substitution effect. So අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ලියන්න ඕනේ. මේ කියන ආදේශන ප්‍රතිවිපාකය සහ ආදායම් ප්‍රතිවිපාක. හරි? ආදේශන ප්‍රතිවිපාකය සහ ආදායම් ප්‍රතිවිපාකය නිසා තමයි මේ විදියට ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය. ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය වමේ සිට දකුණට පහතට බෑවුම් වන්නේ. එතකොට කොච්චර මේක කියලා දුන්නත් even though 1000 times I will explain when I am asking the question why the demand curve already have inverse relationship, most of the time that you will answer it because when price increase the quantity decrease, or when price increase price decrease quantity increase likewise. So that I'm also asking why is that, right? So why is that? Therefore, that definitely you have to answer. That is because of the income effect and the substitution effect. Right? So then, as I explained, law of demand. Law of demand here that we can explain by using this demand schedule and demand curve. Likewise, right? The demand curve and here the demand equation, right? Demand equation. So the QD, the A means the when price equals to 0, right? When price equals to 0, how much is the value for quantity, right? When price equals to 0, so that when we consider about here, right, this is price, this quantity. So when price is equal to 0, right? When price is equals to 0, how much is the quantity, right? Here the value for value is equal to 0, that time. At that time, how much is the value for quantity? This is the horizontal intercept, right? Horizontal is intercept because that we are searching when price is equals to 0, then how much is the quantity, right? How much is the quantity? Maybe that value is equals to 100 or 200. Then we can substitute that value for A. This is 200. Right? Then the B. You should know about B. How do we calculate B? Delta Q divided by delta P. Delta Q means change of Q divided by change of P. So that, for example, if we explain by using new window, right? So this is the demand equation. A minus B P is equals to QD, right? So that here maybe given the schedule as price quantity, we'll refer the previous example again, 10, 20, 30, 40 likewise. And better to put a value for 0 also. When price is equals to 0, quantity is equals to 100, 80, 60, 40, 20. Right? So then we'll assume that we already have this sort of demand schedule. This sort of demand schedule, then we should calculate the demand equation by referring to this table. Right? So what does mean by the A? A is equals to when price equals to 0. Right? When price equals to 0. Price equals to 0, how much? Equals to 0. How much is the quantity? How much is the quantity? How much is the quantity? Right? Right? So when price equals to 0, can see when price equals to 0, how much is the quantity? Right? How much is the quantity? So that is equals to A. If we draw that, you can see this is the price, this is the quantity axis. So that here, if we draw a curve like this, the curve like this, then here, when price is equals to 0, the quantity is equals to 100. Right? So that we can therefore substitute value for A is equals to 0, 100. Right? So A කියලා කියන්නේ මිල බිඳුවේදී. මිල බිඳුවේදී කිව්වල වටිනාකම. හරි? මිල බිඳුවේදී කිව්වල වටිනාකම. කිව්වල වටිනාකම එතකොට මිල බිඳුවේදී 100. A කියන්නේ එතකොට 100. හරි? එතකොට B. Then we want to know about how to calculate the B. B කියන එක කොහොමද calculate කරන්නේ? So B. The B is equals to delta Q divided by delta P. Delta Q divided by delta P. So that value for delta, the Venus change of the Q. That you can see that change is equals to 20. Delta Q divided by delta P. Change of price. මිලේ වෙනස. හැම එකක් වෙනස් වෙවි ගිහින් තියෙන 10 ගන්න. එතකොට B වලට එන value එක කීයද? 2. Right? So minus indicates the relationship is minus. Quantity එකයි price එකයි අතර තියෙන සම්බන්ධතාවය. සම්බන්ධතාවය ඍණ. එහෙම නැත්නම් minus එක. එතකොට what is the equation? Equation is equals to 100 minus 2p. Right? 100 minus 2p. So then if you want to calculate, then here, right? So if they give you this equation as 100 minus 2p, by giving that equation, then they will ask you to calculate the table. Then how can we calculate if they give the equation like 100 minus 2p? 100 minus 2p, right? So then how can we draw the table which relate to that? So that equation is 100 minus 2p. So first we should know about when the price equals to 0, how much is the quantity? Here the P value, this is the Q. Then when substitute instead of P, that we can substitute the 0. When price is 0, how much? You know that when price is equals to 0, 0 into 2 means C equals to 0, then quantity is equals to 100. Then if you want to calculate when the price is equal to 10, right? By using this same equation. What is the equation? equation is 100 minus 2p. This is the demand equation, right? So when the price is equal to 10, how much is the quantity? Then you know A is 100. 2, instead of this p value, that instead of p, that we can substitute 10. මිල 10දී කීයද quantity එක කියලා හොයන්න ඕනේ ලා. එතකොට p කියන එක වුණොත් අපි 10 දානවා. 10 දැම්මම 10 වරක් 2 20යි 100 20ක් ගියාම 80යි. ඊළඟට අපිට ඕන මිල 30 වෙනකොට. එතකොට equation එක තමයි 100 ඍණ 2යි p කියන එක. එතකොට 100 ඍණ 2 වැඩි කිරීම p වෙනුවට that we can use 30. 30. එතකොට 100 ඍණ 60. 100 ඍණ 60. එතකොට අපි දන්නවා එතනද කීයද? When price is equals to 30. 30 වෙනකොට 20 වුණා 20දී 20දී ඔයගලන්ට 60යි කියලා 30දී එනවා 40යි කියලා. හරි. So likewise that we can calculate when we have the table, the demand table, from this table we can derive demand equation, right? Demand equation. So if we have demand equation, then we can draw the demand schedule, right? So both way, maybe sometimes that we can provide. In the exam that I will give you the table asking to derive demand equation. Or maybe sometimes I will give you equation while asking to draw or to derive demand schedule. So likewise here that here already gave another example that you can calculate. You can calculate what does mean by the B. Delta P is the difference 5 here, right? You can see the delta P is 5. Then delta Q is 250. Then 250 divided 5 means 50, right? So you can see the B is equals to 50. 250 divided by 5. So that you can have the value for A and B, then you can draw, right? You can derive the demand equation. So then when we consider about what are the difference between changes in quantity demand and the changes in demand, demand shifters and the quantity, right? Demand shifters and the quantity change. So that වක්‍රය දිගේ ගමන් කිරීම, right? So that වක්‍රය දිගේ ගමන් කිරීම සහ ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍රය වෙනස් වීම. වක්‍රය දිගේ ගමන් කිරීම සහ ඉල්ලුම් වක්‍ර වෙනස් වීම. So that when we consider about the determinants, demand determinants, right? When we consider about the demand determinants, that you can identify what are the demand determinants, what are the demand determinants. All these things we consider as the demand determinants. මේ ඔක්කොම factors අටම අපි consider කරන්නේ ඉල්ලුම තීරණය වෙන්න බලපාන සාධක. So out of all these factors that we consider about the under law of demand, also the relationship between the price of the considerable commodity and the demand. එතකොට මේ ඔක්කොම සාධක අතුරින් මිල සහ මිල සලකා බලන බණ්ඩේ මිල සහ ඉල්ලුම් අතර තියෙන සම්බන්ධතාවය තමයි අපි ඉල්ලුම් න්‍යායයටත් කතා කරන්නේ. එතකොට වක්‍රය දිගේ ගමන් කිරීම කියලා කියන්නේ මේ භාණ්ඩයේ මිල සලකා ලබන භාණ්ඩේ, the price of the considerable commodity, right? When the price of the considerable commodity change, when price of the considerable commodity change, what will happen? That will impact of the changes of the quantity, right? When price increase, quantity will decrease, right? When price increase, the quantity will decrease. So that there may be upward shift from A to B. Or maybe sometimes when price reduction, when there's a price reduction, what will happen? Downward shift, right? From 10 to 5. That 100 to 200 will increase, right? From A to B, downward movement, right? So that when there's a price change, when there's a price change of the commodity, what will happen? That may be lead to change the movements, right? The change the movements of the curve, right? Movements of the curve. There may be upward shift or a downward shift, right? Other than to price. And other than to price, if there's change of any other factor, then what will happen? So other than to the price of the gold, if there's change of any other factor, that may be the taste, maybe the income, maybe the future expectation, what will happen? The whole curve may be shift to right hand side or left hand side. I think in the classroom, we relate to T market, the previous session. So the classroom is in previous sessions where that we already discussed. Right? We already discussed about what are the factors impact to determine the changes of the whole demand curve. Right? When we consider about the increase of the substitute, the price of the substitute commodity, increase of price of substitute commodity, and the decrease of the price of substitute complementary commodity. Increase of substitute and decrease of complementary. Again, the increase of income, then the increase of taste, increase of number of buyers, all impact of the increase of price, increase of future, all these things which impact to shift the demand curve to right hand side, outward shift, right? Outward shift. So, but in other way, right? All these things will shift the demand curve to right hand side like this. What are those factors? Increase of substitute price, decrease of complementary goods, increase of income, then the expectation of the increase of future price, increase of number of buyers in the market, increase of taste, all these factors have impact to shift demand curve to right hand side. Then when we consider about the other way around, what are the factors? Impact to decrease demand curve. So that another thing actually that I have to remind you that when we are drawing the demand curve and supply curve, that you have to be careful, right? Because we already have so many experiences. At least one or two people definitely wrongly label the demand curve and the supply curve. This is actually the demand curve. This is supply curve. Most of the time that when I'm asking to shift or demand curve or supply curve. Maybe sometimes all the rational, the ways that they shift those curves all are correct, but the labeling may be differ. Then cannot give the marks. So that we have to keep in mind when we are labeling the curves. This is the demand curve. Then this is the supply curve, that how these things impact on to shift demand or supply curve. Right? So that when we consider about the factors impact to shift demand curve to left hand side, other than to the price. If there's a price change, actually that will lead to movements along the curve, maybe either upward or a downward shift, other than to the price. Other than to the price, any of these factors will impact the whole demand curve to shift right hand side or left hand side. So that decrease of substitutes, decrease of substitute price, increase of complementary price, decrease of income. That if you have any idea, so that future price may be decreased. Therefore, now demand will decrease, and number of buyers, very little number of buyers, the demand decrease, taste reduce, then the whole demand curve will shift to left hand side. So that is the difference between changes in quantity, movements along the curve and the demand shifters, right? Movements along the curve and the demand shifters that you can see clearly here, the upward movements and the downward movements due to increase in quantity. There's a upward movement, and decrease in quantity, there's a upward movement. Downward movement due to decrease, upward movement. Okay? And what are the different changes in demand quantity, right? That what are the factors impact to shift the whole demand curve, to right hand side or left hand side. Increase in demand means the outward shift, or the whole demand curve will shift to right hand side. This is inward shift, or decrease in demand, the whole demand curve will shift to left hand side, right? Left hand side due to that I already mentioned the facts, right? So then determinants. Then when we consider about the supply side, right? Supply side, that also very similar, right? That how we explain about the demand. Demand similarly by using that's only the name we change. Then whatever the things we already learn under the demand theory of demand, here also that we can use when we are explaining the supply. So that here also there are a lot of factors, lot of determinants, right? Impact on supply. So that effective supply, that we can identify, the supply means actually the goods and services we supply by the producers, right? The goods and services we supply by the producers or the organizations. So then we can identify them as the suppliers, right? Suppliers. Then what are the determinants? What are the factors impact on supply? That price of the commodity, right? Then the price of the related goods, price of the factors of production, government policies, technology, number of organizations, seasons, and whether future expectation or these things have impact on the price, right? So that even though all these factors have an impact to determine supply, here also we consider the price. The price of the commodity is very, very important than the other factors. So therefore, the through law of supply. Through law of supply, that what the law of supply examine? The law of supply examine the relationship between the quantity and the supply, the price of the supply, when other things are constant, right? When other things are constant, that they already identify, there's a positive relationship. There's a positive relationship between price and the quantity. When price increase, quantity also increase, right? Quantity also increase. That is, that identified as the positive relationship. Positive relationship. Then law of supply. Law of supply also that we can explain by using graph, then the table and the supply curve. Right? This is a supply equation. As here also, that how can we calculate the A is the horizontal intercept. That means the when price equals to 0, how much is the quantity, right? When price equals to 0, how much is the quantity? And the B means delta Q divided by delta P. So that how we substitute the values for the, when we are calculating demand equation, likewise for the supply equation also we can calculate the values, right? So if you want that, likewise that here, you can show, you can see here that how can we substitute, right? How can we substitute values for A and B, right? A and B. So that here, then when we consider about the market equilibrium, the market equilibrium is where the demand equals to supply, right? The buyers and sellers come to the common agreement to exchange commodity on agreeable price, right? On agreeable price. So at that time, there's no excess demand or excess supply. At that time, exactly the quantity is equals to supply, right? That we can identify as the market equilibrium. Right? Market equilibrium, the market equilibrium also that we can show by using 3 different approaches as demand and supply schedule, the graphical methods, and the equation, right? So that we already discussed all these things in the classroom. I just refreshing, and because that we have to move some calculations here that you can see. How can we show the equilibrium by using the schedule and the graphical methods and the equation, right? Equation, so that by using this equation, right, we can calculate, right? The QD is equals to, right, like yeah, QD is equals to 480 and QS is equals to minus 2P, that you can try down at the equilibrium point. At the equilibrium, QD is equals to QS when QD is equals to 400 minus 8P equals 100 minus 100 plus 12P, right? Plus 12P. So then what we have to do? That we have to rearrange all the numerical values by shifting those who are in the right-hand side. Right-hand side, the numerical value that we have to shift to left-hand side. And what will happen when we are shifting the values to left-hand side, the sign will change. That you have to definitely, thoroughly you have to keep in mind that point. ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම හොඳටම මතක තියාගන්න ඕන පොයින්ට් එකක්. මොකද ගොඩක් කලාවට. දැන් මම assignment එක ගත්තා. assignments වලදීත් that when I ask to the assignment, right? ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ළමයින්ගෙන් assignments ගන්නකොට that I'm asking from them when we are doing some calculations, hypothetically calculate the values for equilibrium values for commodity. හරි භාණ්ඩයකට හරි සේවාවකට හරි equilibrium value එක calculate කරන්න කිව්වහම assignments වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් classroom එකේදී ගණන් දීලා so most of the time they already neglect about this sign. මේ sign එක ගැන අමතක කරනවාමයි. හරි එතකොට මේ පැත්තේ ධන තියෙනවා නම් මේ පැත්තට ගේනකොට ඍණ 100 වෙනවා. මේ පැත්තේ දකුණු පැත්තේ ඍණ 100 තියෙනකොට වම් පැත්තට ගේනකොට that become plus. That become plus 100. Right? Then when we consider about the values variables here that 12p, then we change this minus 8p. minus 8p එක මේ පැත්තට යනකොට plus 8p වෙනවා. එතකොට so then value is equals to 20p. 20p is equals to 500. 500. If you want to have a value for p, they have to divide both sides by 20. මේ දෙපැත්තම එතකොට 20ෙන් බෙදන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට p is equals to price is equals to 25. Right? Price is equals to 25. එතකොට මිල සමාන වෙනවා 25. එතකොට මේ මිල when we are substituting either for demand equation or supply equation. එක්ක demand equation එකට එහෙම නැත්නම් supply equation එකට ආදේශ කරලා we can have the value for Q. Q වලට value එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. Right? When we consider about the value for Q, that either by substituting for the demand equation or the supply equation, we can have the value for quantity. Then P is equals to 25. Substitute the value for substitute P is equals to 25 to QD equation, right? QD equation, demand equation, 400 minus 8P. Instead of this P, we can consider the value as 25. 8 into 25. 8 into 25 means 200. 400 minus 200 means 200. Then the demand is equals to 200. So the equilibrium price is 25. Then equilibrium quantity is equals to 200. Maybe sometimes ask the same question, right? So the same question that we can extend like this also. And instead of this, this maybe I can ask as the part A, then part B. Part B that we can extend. We can extend asking to calculate it again while saying the value for equation of QD remain constant and ඒ කියන්නේ QD equation එක එහෙමම තියෙද්දි QD equation එක හැමම තියෙද්දි then if we change QSS the QSS minus 110p or likewise that we can change 2p minus 102p. So then calculate the new equilibrium and the quantity. Then what we have to do? Then again we have to consider QD is equals to 400 minus 8p. So what is the new supply curve? Now new supply curve is minus 100 plus 2p, right? Minus 100 plus 2p. So then we can calculate again the new value. When the quantity, the demand curve remain constant. QD, the quantity demand will not change. But accordingly, new supply curve will change as minus 100 plus 2p. Then calculate the new equilibrium price and the quantity. If you ask likewise, by extending question, what you have to do that instead of this previous QS value වෙනුවට දැන් ගන්න ඕනේ අලුත් QS එක කීයද 100 minus 100 plus 2p දෙකයි p කිය. හරි. ඔය විදිහට එක්ක Q supply curve එක වෙනස් කරලා අහන්නත් පුළුවන් නැත්නම් demand curve එක වෙනස් කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So then lies the different calculation. Right? So then maybe sometimes they will ask by giving what is the extra demand and extra supply that you can see here the values. Values for, where is that? Right? So what is the value for here the excess demand? Right? Here when you consider about the demand is 3, supply is 7, therefore the excess supply is difference between 3 and 7, 4. The excess supply. Then excess supply will occur above the equilibrium. Equilibrium point එකට උඩින් තමයි above equilibrium point. Excess supply කියන එක එන්නේ below equilibrium. කොට සමතුලිතයට පහළින් එන්නේ excess demand. අඩි ඉල්ලුම. අඩි ඉල්ලුම සහ අඩි සපයම කියන එක. ඒතකොට අඩි ඉල්ලුමක් එන්නේ හැම වෙලාවම සමතුලිත මිලට පහළයි. එතන මෙතෙන්දී ඉල්ලන්න. මෙතෙන්දී සපයන්නේ අඩු මිලක් නිසා. අඩු මිලට සපයන්නේ 3යි. හැබැයි අඩු මිලක් නිසා ඉල්ලනවා 7ක්. එතකොට අඩි ඉල්ලුමක් තියෙන එතන 4ක. So likewise that we can calculate. Right? We can calculate the excess demand and excess supply also. Right? And then MCQs. Then actually that through different things that we are discussing and the demand and supply, some calculations, then the theoretical explanations, other than whatever the things that we already did in the classroom, like some situations, how some situation impact to shift the whole demand curve to right hand side or left hand side, we already discussed. දකුණට හෝ වමට විතැන් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද supply curve එක හරි හරි නැත්තම් demand curve එක හරි ඔයාට අපි තේ වෙළඳපොළට අදාළව which relate to the tea market we already discussed some incidents, right? How those incidents impact on demand or supply, how those things affect to shift whole demand curve or supply curve to right hand side or left hand side. That we have to go through. So that in the classroom means in the sessions, right? We already discussed. And then again, normally when I'm preparing the question paper, that the structure of the question paper, most of the time the first question is compulsory question, and that comprise with the MCQs. That includes some MCQs. So that from the whole micro and macro parts, right? All micro and macro parts, we'll cover these MCQs, right? So that when we consider about the first one, which is not a factor affecting a demand for good. So that which one is the impact factor that is not impact on demand. You can see the price or that answer already marked here. Consumer income. ආදායම බලපෑවා. බාණ්ඩයේ සලකා ලබන බාණ්ඩයේ මිල අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම බලපෑවා ඩිමාන්ඩ් එකට. ඊළඟට පාරිභෝගිකයාගේ රුචිකත්වය බලපෑවා. සම්බන්ධිත භාණ්ඩවල මිල බලපෑවා. ඊපස්සේ we didn't discuss about the given goods. බාල භාණ්ඩ ගැන කතා කරේ නැහැ. හරි? Well, okay. So the answer is the E. Then the second question, which of the following is not affected when a consumer demand curve is drawn up? What මෙතෙන්දී අහන්න මොකද්ද? Consumer demand curve එක. Which of the following is not affected? Not affected when a consumer demand curve is drawn up. එතකොට consumer demand curve එක අඳිනකොට when a consumer demand curve drawn up, that these factors will not impact. ඒකම තව විදියකට අහලා තියෙනවා. තව විදියකට අහලා තියෙනවා. දැන් උඩ ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන විදිහට determinants කියන එක අහන්න නැතුව ඒකම වෙන විදිහකට අහලා. එතකොට අපි consumer demand curve එක අඳිනකොට පහළ තියෙන ඒවායින් යම්කිසි සාධකයක් බලපාන්න ඇතුළු. Which of the following is not affect? මොකද්ද effect එකක් නැත්තේ? when a consumer demand curve is drawn up. Consumer demand curve එක අඳිනකොට. එතකොට definitely price එක බලපානවා demand curve එක අඳිනකොට. Complementary goods බලපානවා. Substitute goods බලපානවා. But consumer income එක බලපානවා. The price of factors of production. What නිෂ්පාදන සාධකවල මිල බලපාන්නේ not for the demand curve. No, that may be the impact factor of supply curve. ඒක සපයීමට බලපාන සාධකය. හරි? ඒක ඉල්ලුමට බලපාන සාධකයක් නෙවෙයි. Right? So then what effect will falling computer prices have on the software market? Right? What effect will falling computer prices? එතකොට computers වල මිල පහළ යන්න බලපාන සාධක මොනවද? Computer price how on the software market. Right? What the question asks, what effect will falling computer prices have on the software market? Software market එකේ software market එකේ computer මිල පහළ බැසීම. software market එකේ computer මිල පහළ බැසීම නිසා මොකද්ද වෙන්න පුළුවන්? What effect? What will happen? What will happen when falling computer prices? Computer prices පහළ වැටීම have on the software market. Software market එකක තියෙන computer prices පහළ බැසීම. එං ඇතිවන ප්‍රතිඵලය මොකක්ද කියලා. හරි? ප්‍රතිඵලය මොකක්ද? Here the computers and software. Computers and software complementary goods. Complementary goods. එතකොට complementary goods කියලා කියන්නේ computer එකක් දුවන්න බෑ. Complementary goods කියලා කියන්නේ joint products. Joint products that you have to consider about the computers and like the gas and gas cooker. Software නැතුව මේ computers දුවන්න බෑ. කම්පියුටර් එක දුවන්න බෑ. එතකොට අපිට අඳුර ගන්න ඕන software සහ computers කියලා කියන්නේ මොන මේ productsද? එතකොට computers and software are complementary goods. ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩ. ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩ එතකොට joint products කියන එක දෙකම ඕනේ. අපිට පාවිච්චි කරන්න දෙකම ඕනේ කියන එක. එතකොට computer when the falling of computer price. Computers වල මිල ගණන් ඉහළ යාම නිසා price increase the demand for software. Right? So increase the demand for එතකොට සම්බන්ධිත භාණ්ඩ වල ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩයක මිල ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩයක මිල පහළ යාම නිසා වෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? සලකා බලන ලබන භාණ්ඩයට තියෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වෙනවා. හරි? මෙතන වෙනා තියෙන ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩයේ මිල පහළ ගිහින් තියෙනවා. කම්පියුටර් ප්‍රයිස් එක පහළ ගිහින් තියෙනවා. එතකොට ප්‍රතිබද්ධ භාණ්ඩයේ මිල පහළ යනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? softwares වලට තියෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වෙනවා. හරි? So that is increase the demand. හරියට gas cylinder වල මිල පහළ යනකොට. ඒ වගේම තමයි වෙන්නේ මෙතන. gas cylinder වල මිල පහළ යනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? gas cooker වලට තියෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒ වගේ computers වල මිල පහළ යනකොට computers වල තියෙන මිල පහළ යනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? software වලට තියෙන ඉල්ලුම වැඩි වෙන නිසා increase demand. Right? Increase demand. So then QD is equals to 40 minus 2P and QS is equals to 2P. What is the excess demand? Excess demand at the price of 5. එතකොට that we can calculate. First, what is the equilibrium price? Equilibrium price when here. So to find out excess demand or excess supply, that when we consider about the equilibrium price, QD is equals to 40 minus 2P. QS is equal to 2P. Right, then 40 is equals to this minus 2P when we shift to right hand side, that is become plus. Right? Then 4P is equals to 40. Therefore, P is equals to divided by 4, that 4 is equals to P is equals to 10. P is equals to 10. Right? So then for the good understanding that you can draw even. Maybe sometimes we can draw that this is the equilibrium price and quantity. So that equilibrium price is 5. Sorry, 10. Right? 10. Right? So then when we draw, we can see when the excess demand, when the price is equals to 5. Right? So when the price is equals to 5, that they're asking what is the excess demand. Right? So then QS, that you can calculate when price, so that you can have the idea about the equilibrium price also if you want to draw also. Right? Otherwise, directly if you have some sort of understanding, then you just no need to worry about the equilibrium by the things, then you can just substitute, but instead of P, the 5. Right? So the QD here, QD is equals to 40. For the another good understanding, I already calculate the equilibrium also because we already did only one question. So then 5 into 2 means that 10. එතකොට QD demand is equals to 30. Right? then QS is equals to directly you can substitute instead of P the 5 පහ වෙනුවට P වෙනුවට 5 ආදේශ කරන්න පුළුවන් 5 අරක් දෙක 10 QS සමානයි 10. එතකොට ඉල්ලුම 10යි සැපයුම 10යි ඉල්ලුම 30යි. අද ඉල්ලුමක් තියෙනවා කීයකද 20ක. Right? So 20 is the answer. Right? 20 is the answer. So then right here as I show you that you can show the equilibrium price is equals to 10 and quantity is 20 එක graphically පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් මේ විදියට. equilibrium price එක 10යි එතෙන්දි quantity එක 20යි එතකොට QS එක substitute කරා 10යි එතෙන්දි QD එක 30යි therefore excess demand is 20. එතකොට මේක that you can nicely draw also. So if you ask that you can draw also. Right? So then here you can see that what is the supply equation. They are asking the supply equation. The equation represented by the above graph. So that you know that when price is equals to 0, what is the equation? QS is equals to A plus BP. A means when price equals to 0. When price is equals to 0, how much the quantity? When price is equal to 0, how much is the quantity? Quantity is minus 10. Minus 10. Then B. How do we calculate the B? Delta Q divided by delta P. Right? So the delta Q, the Q value, the difference is 10. Right? The delta P 0 to 5, 5. So the 5 divided by 10 is 2. Right? 2P. So then minus 10 plus 2P is the equation. Right? Is the equation for the supply curve. Right? So that here by using that equation, that you can calculate. Right? You can calculate P is 0.5, Q is 0.10, then you can calculate the supply equation also, right? And then here by using following information that we can consider, by using this information that you can calculate how much is the here already gave the quantity demand and excess demand. Then asking how much the quantity supply, right? So then excess demand එකක් 900 තියෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම supply එක කීයද 1100 900 අතර වෙනස නේ 200ක් දැන් අපි තුමු 200ක supply එකකුයි 1100ක demand එකකුයි තිබුණොත් තමයි 900ක excess demand එකක් එන්නේ 200යි supply කරන්නේ 1100ක් ඉල්ලනවා එතකොට අදි ඉල්ලුමක් තියෙන 900ක හරි 200යි supply එක. එතකොට මෙතෙන්දී අපි supply එක හොයන්න නම් මොකද කරන්න ඕන? quantity එකේ excess demand එක අඩු කරන්න. හරි 900න් 500ක් ගියාම 400යි. එතකොට supply එක 400යි. ඔකද you can recheck. මේ විදිහට recheck කරන්න බලමු supply එක 400යි. ඉල්ලනවා 900ක්. supply එක 400යි 900ක් ඉල්ලනවා. එතකොට excess demand එක 500යි. මෙම දීලා තිබුණොත් excess demand එක දීලා තියෙන වෙලාවක ඇහුවොත් කොච්චරද supply එක කියලා how do we calculate that one? Difference of the quantity demand and the excess demand equals to supply. Right? So then another calculation, right? So this one is here that you can use, right? That you can use this equation also, these two equations to calculate equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. All right, that 1003 minus 10p is equals to 10p. Then if we change both similar variables, 20p is equals to 1300. So that p is equals to 65. By substituting to QS, we can calculate 10 by 65, the quantity, equilibrium quantity, right? So that you have to do these calculations, right? You have to do these calculations. I already gave here different, right? That different calculations here. Actually, that if we have this sort of individual, right? Individual demand curves, and we'll be asked to calculate by giving only one QS, right? QS equation. They asked to calculate market equilibrium price and the quantity. So how can we calculate the market demand by adding all these three together? මේ individual demand curves තුන මම ඔයගලන්ට classroom එකෙදිත් කතා කරා. ඇලිස් බෲස් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ABC කියලා වෙන වෙනම demand curves තියෙනකොට ඒවා ඔක්කොගේම එකතුව තමයි අපි කියන්නේ market demand curve කියලා. එතකොට මෙතන market supply curve එක දීලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට market demand curve එක නැහැ. So that we should have to calculate the market demand. කොහොමද market demand curve එක ගන්නෙ? මේ තුන එකට add කරලා. හරි? එතකොට මේ තුන එකට add කරපුවාම that you can see 1000 1400 2000 එකතු කරපුවාම 2යි 1යි 3යි 4යි 4400. 4400 20යි 10යි 30යි 10යි 44යි. එතකොට 4400 minus 44යි p. මේක තමයි අපේ demand equation එක වෙන්නේ. QS equation එක දීලා තිනවා 20යි px කියලා. එතකොට මේ 4400 ඍණ 44යි px 20යි x වලින් equalize කරපුවාම then we can calculate the px. Price of x is equals to 68.75 and the price of equilibrium quantity is equals to 1375, right? So then individually, by substituting the values for individual demand curves that we can calculate the price. We know 68.75. How much is the demand for person A, person B, and person C? Separately, that we can calculate by using the separate individual demand curve. So then most probably that you will receive this sort of equation, this sort of calculation, right? This sort of calculation. Suppose the first demand and supply curve is QDX 20 minus P, QS is minus 86P. Then first you have to calculate the equilibrium price and quantity. Then suppose the demand function changes 36 minus 5P. Then calculate again new equilibrium price and quantity. Then suppose the supply function changes QS minus 10 plus 4p. Then method, one thing that you have to remember, මෙතන 36යි QD වෙනස් වෙනකොට initial supply එකම තමයි ගන්නෙ. 36යි ඍණ 5යි p එක්කලා ඍණ 8යි දන 6යි p ගන්න. calculation එක. ඊළඟට QS එක වෙනස් වෙනකොට ඍණ 10යි 4යි p ආයි ගන්න initial demand එක. මොකද supply එක තමයි වෙනස් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. හරි? So already calculate. The first one is by using all these two equations, 20 minus 5 minus 865, that we can, by substituting these things, we can have price is equals to 4 and QD is equals to 60. Then when the again change as 36 minus 5p, that we have to consider 36 minus 5p with the minus 8 plus 6p. Yes, right? So So likewise, the here price is equals to, right? Yes, second one, price is equal to 4 and QD is equals to 60. Then what will happen? Third one, suppose the supply function changes minus 10 plus 4p. Then with the initial demand, which we are 20 minus 4p, that we have to change the supply function as minus 10 plus 4p. 20 minus p minus 10 plus 4p, right? So likewise, then we can have the value for like this, 20 minus p minus 10 plus 4p, right? Value for p and value for qd. So that already gave, right? Already gave some calculations that you should have to practice. Right, definitely that we have to practice because already gave the answer also here. Different calculations already did. Several examples already given. So then you should have to calculate all these things by equalizing QD with QS, right? Okay. Okay.